In June of 2012, Walt Disney Television Animation debuted a show unlike anything else that's ever been created on the channel. At first glance, Gravity Falls looked like just another Disney Channel cartoon, a pair of twins spending the summer with their goofy great uncle in a small quirky little town. But pretty quickly, audiences started to realize this wasn't your typical animated show. Behind the jokes and the slapstick was something stranger, scarier, and far more ambitious. And while the show means a lot for me personally, Gravity Falls also quietly transformed Disney television as a whole. Its success opened the door for a new era of serialized, creator and story-driven animation on the channel, all of which can trace back their roots to a small little summer in Oregon. So how did one weird show about twins, gnomes, a conman uncle, and creepy triangles change Disney animation forever? Well, I guess it's probably about time that we dive into that mystery, huh? If you've been enjoying everything I've been putting out recently, maybe consider subscribing. Lots of fun stuff in the very near future. Gravity Falls was created by Alex Hirsch, and centers around two 12-year-old twins Dipper and Mabel Pines, who are sent to spend the summer with their great uncle, Grunkle Stan, owner of a tourist shop called the Mystery Shack. The show was heavily based on Alex and his own real-life twin sister's summers spent in seemingly boring towns as kids. But what starts as a fun, quirky summer quickly turns into something stranger when Dipper discovers a hidden journal in the woods, full of all the paranormal activities that take place in the town. From there, the twins are pulled into a series of adventures, fighting off gnomes posing as romantic interests, uncovering wax figures that come to life when no one's watching, surviving cursed living video games, time travel, clones, haunted convenience stores, all while trying to piece together the mystery of who wrote the journals and what's really going on beneath the surface of their sleepy little town. I think what immediately sets Gravity Falls apart from other animated shows at the time was the duality of it. This show perfectly balances two very opposing energies. One moment, you're getting incredibly sharp and self-aware humor that goes completely over your head at the age of 12, but at the age of 24, it's the kind of jokes that are endlessly quotable and just linger in your head for weeks.
I would like to see you settled before I ascend to heaven and live with the angels.
And with Grandpa.
No, he is not there.
But then in the next moment, you could legitimately get some of the scariest cartoon horror since Courage the Cowardly Dog, and definitely not something you would expect to see on the Disney Channel of all places. But what allowed these very different tones to coexist almost seamlessly is that things are always centered around the heart of the show, the Pines family. Even though it might not really look like it at first glance, the Pines family are some of the most fleshed out characters maybe in all of television. Dipper is incredibly curious but also super anxious, and although it may not seem like it at times, endlessly determined. He's the perfect stand-in for every kid trying to grow up faster than the world wants them to. Mabel's maybe the exact opposite, spontaneous, confident, optimistic, and clinging onto that joy of childhood even as it starts to fade. And then there's Grunkle Stan, seemingly a cranky old con artist running a kinda run-down roadside attraction, but very, very deep down, he hides a past full of guilt, love, and sacrifice. And when all of his secrets start to unravel, the show's entire story starts to shift. But let's put a pin in that for a second. Every mystery, no matter how big, always loops right back to the family. Whether it's Dipper trying to prove himself, Mabel learned to accept that things change, or Stan seemingly knowing a lot more than he seems to. That emotional core of the Pines family keeps the show grounded. But what really made Gravity Falls feel special, and honestly kind of addicting, was how interactive it was. This wasn't just a show you watched, it was a show you lived. From the very first episode, it was clear that something bigger was going on in this town. Something brewing in the background that Dipper, Mabel, and us the audience weren't supposed to understand just yet. All centered around that journal that Dipper found deep in the woods. Inside were cryptic notes, monster sketches, and warnings about all the town's supernatural oddities. But the biggest mystery wasn't the monsters themselves, but instead, just where did this book even come from? Who was the author of the journals? That single question became the backbone of the entire show. Every episode, even the most standalone feeling ones, felt like another step towards solving that mystery. Weird little things started stacking up. Secret codes at the end of the credits, cryptograms hidden in the background, strange symbols that you could seemingly find in every corner of the town. The show began to turn its audience into junior detectives. Me and my friend Keno, after watching episodes, would literally spend our nights out there like Sherlock Holmes and Watson, trying to connect every clue, convinced we were this close to figuring out whatever this mystery was. I mean, we weren't, but still. But it wasn't just us. Suddenly, kids were grabbing their notebooks, pausing the screen, deciphering codes, and debating theories online. The secret ingredient in this mystery, though, was the pacing. The mystery didn't just sit in the background. It built up episode by episode, perfectly escalating. You'd think you're watching a Monster of the Week episode, then out of nowhere, a major reveal. The discovery of another book, or a symbol that appeared again where it shouldn't be. Each discovery felt earned, like we were one step closer each episode to discovering the truth. Then came Not What He Seems. The culmination of nearly 3 years of breadcrumbs, red herrings, and all the theories exploding into one of the greatest reveals in modern television history.
Like, you know an episode of TV is gonna be good when they have to cut that opening down.
And that buildup was intense, man. Grunkle Stan acting even more suspicious than usual, us learning more about his past than we could even imagine, a secret giant machine under the Mystery Shack powering up something big, even government agents getting involved. But when the truth finally comes out, when the portal opens and the real author steps through, it doesn't just answer the question of who wrote the journals. It redefines everything we thought we knew about the show. Like, incredibly huge spoiler about to happen if you still haven't watched this show from like a decade ago.
What? Who is that?
The author of the journals. My brother.
It's not just a shock moment, it's an actual payoff. It's a perfect example of how to structure a mystery in long-form storytelling. Every clue mattered. Even weird little things you didn't notice as a kid watching suddenly meant something. Honestly, it's the kind of reveal that makes you want to go back and just watch the entire series from the beginning, just to see again how perfectly it was all set up. For kids like me, that mystery wasn't just interesting, it was legitimately something we hadn't seen in television animation. It made the world of Gravity Falls feel alive, like we were a part of the Pine Twins' investigation. The lines between fiction and reality were blurred, and we loved every second of it. If the first half of Gravity Falls was about uncovering secrets, then the second half is about learning how to live with them. After the reveal of the author, the series shifts, not just in stakes, but narratively. We finally understand the truth about the journals, about Grunkle Stan, about the world that we and all these characters have been pulled into. But instead of losing momentum, the story grows up alongside its characters. As the summer starts to fade, so does that innocence that defined those early episodes. The supernatural fun of gnomes and shapeshifters gives way to something heavier. Questions about change, growing older, and what happens when that childhood inevitably starts to end. Those questions perfectly embody the growing rift between Dipper and Mabel. Dipper is chasing knowledge, control, and a sense of who he wants to be, pushing him to stay in Gravity Falls, beyond the summer, under the tutelage of the author of the journals and, again, spoiler, their great uncle Stanford Pine. While Mabel was clinging desperately to that childhood that they built together, afraid of what's coming next, searching for any sense of normalcy in such an ever-changing time, which ultimately leads her to the decision that she makes at the end of the show. Their conflict isn't about monsters anymore, it's about time, the future, and how it can seemingly pull the closest of people apart. And then there's of course Bill Cipher.
Hey, look what I can do! Deer teeth! For you, kid! You're insane! Sure I am, what's your point?
The ultimate embodiment of all that chaos. A literal trickster demon who thrives on confusion and fear. Bill turns Gravity Falls into a full-blown apocalyptic hellscape. He's the perfect final test for the entire Pines family, a being who feeds on their doubts and fractures. The 3-part finale, Weirdmageddon, doesn't just wrap up the mystery, it brings every thread of the entire show together in a finale that's equal parts spectacle and emotional. When all the dust has settled, Gravity Falls ends in the only way it could. It ends with the end of summer. No more codes or backwards messages, no more portals, no more unanswered questions. Well, maybe one. It was just 2 kids packing their bags, finally saying goodbye to the weirdest, most magical summer of their lives. Disney desperately wanted this show to keep going, But Alex doubled down on his decision and ended Gravity Falls on his own terms and time. And somehow that feels more powerful and important than any extra we could have gotten out of this show if it continued. What makes Gravity Falls special isn't just how it built its mystery, it's what those mysteries meant for those who watched it. At least for me, solving them was as much about experiencing those specific moments as it was uncovering the secrets. Honestly, in hindsight, every clue discovered and every episode felt like another step towards the end of childhood. This 2-season show started when I was 11 and literally ended the year I was gonna turn 16. So you can quite literally say that I grew up as this show did. When Gravity Falls premiered, I wasn't thinking about symbolism or character-driven arcs or story-driven animation. I mean, besides Avatar and maybe a little bit of Dragon Ball Z sprinkled in, this was probably my first introduction to like all of that. I probably couldn't care less about any of that stuff at the time. I just thought it was cool. It just felt so perfectly tailored for me. It had the perfect mix of mystery and mischief that made you really connect to this world and its characters. But as the show evolved, so did I. When Dipper and Mabel started facing questions about growing up and going their separate ways, I was asking those same questions. I mean, that gap between 7th grade and 11th is a really big transition period for a lot of people's lives. Friends were changing, summers were getting shorter, that childhood glow, I guess, started to kind of fade away a bit, and the future began to feel a bit more uncertain. Beneath the monsters, mysteries, and cryptograms, what made Gravity Falls so special was that it was a story about the fear of growing up and letting go of your childhood. I still remember all those times staying up late trying to crack those codes on FaceTime, or seeing my little cousin genuinely become terrified of wax statues after watching that Wax Museum episode. All of those memories are kind of just burnt into my mind now. So now when I rewatch the show, it feels like I'm flipping through an old scrapbook of who I was at the time. So when it actually ended, it definitely impacted me harder than I was probably expecting it to. Not because I wanted more episodes, but it hit me so hard because it felt like I was kind of saying bye to a part of my childhood, the same way that Dipper and Mabel were starting to say goodbye to theirs. The thing about Gravity Falls though, is that it didn't really end. At least not really. I mean, yeah, technically the show did end. The summer ended, the mysteries were solved, the kids went home. But the impact that that show left behind, it never went away. The world that Alex Hirsch and his team created didn't just influence me, it changed what Disney television animation could be. Before the premiere of Gravity Falls, serialized storytelling, especially in their cartoons, wasn't something you'd see on the Disney Channel. But because of the success of that show, it proved to Disney that kids could handle layered stories, emotional arcs, and ongoing plot lines that actually pay off. You can trace back Gravity Falls' fingerprints to a lot of Disney's more modern cartoon shows that came after, like some weird cartoon family tree. Shows like The Owl House, Amphibia, and DuckTales, besides all having staff from Gravity Falls, all shared the show's serialization, mythology, heartfelt weirdness, humor, and its emotional core. So I guess it didn't just grow up with me, it helped Disney grow up too. It showed them that yeah, animation could be funny, but it could also be mysterious, scary, and emotional, and very personal too. It reminded a generation of kids and creators that it's okay for a story to end, because endings don't erase what they meant to us. For a show about two kids spending one summer in a weird little town, Gravity Falls managed to change everything. But for me, it'll always feel like coming home to one of the strangest, most magical summers I've ever had. Just wanted to say thank you once again to everybody that made it to the end of this, and to everybody who subscribed recently. Gravity Falls is literally like a modern animated masterpiece, and while it might not be my favorite animated show, it's definitely my favorite Disney show. So it's really nice to have an excuse to watch it again, and to just work on this video. Remember to like and subscribe, let me know your thoughts on Gravity Falls if you've seen it, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Happy Halloween.